this is the cat's eye we've all come to recognize, but this photo could have ended up looking more like this, and the difference is all down to the departure of one person. Or so some people claim, but today we're going to be exercising that and seeing what would have happened if Lexie could have stayed. Maybe. Missions 1 and 2 would have been exactly the same with the same eliminations, and Mission 3 would have been the same, just Team Wannabe would have looked like this. The first major difference, I think, would have been the eliminations at the end of Mission 3 and the final 10. Obviously, Lexie would have to take someone's place in the final, so I looked at the roles that each girl was expected to play within the group, and Lexie was obviously there for her visual power and her star quality. The girl who made it to this top 10 who most obviously was filling this role was Manon, so for that reason I decided that Lexie would have taken her place in the final. I'm scared. I think there also could have been a second difference in this elimination. Personally, I would have eliminated Yunche instead of Nayoung. I think that Yunche is much taller than Lexie and the girls they would put with her, and Nayoung is that much shorter and fits Lexie's vibe much better. And if they wanted a Korean girl in the final group, I would have opted for Nayoung instead of Yunche. Obviously, they eliminated Nayoung because she expressed a desire to be a solo artist, but this is my world, and I can do what I want to. So this would be our final 10. I put Nayoung into the Dirty Water group as I feel like this number was more focused on vocals, and Lexie into the Girls Don't Like group because I feel that number was more focused on dance. So obviously Lexie's in the group, that's the point of this video. If Lexie's in the group, I'm also just going to put in Emily and Samara by default because, you know. I'm also going to add in Azrella because this group would have been inspired by Team Wannabe, and obviously she worked very well in that number, so she's in the group. Thinking of the vibe for this group going off Team Wannabe, I think it would have been very soft, very feminine, very girly. One person I don't think fits that soft vibe is Lara. I mean, she was trying, but we all knew, so for that reason, Lara is eliminated. The next person I'm going to add is Nayoung. Like I said, I think if they wanted a Korean girl, she's the only one in this top 10, and she's also a good fit. I think she has that cutesy vibe, she fits in with the heights of the other girls. I then looked at the heights of all the girls because I think that's very important for Hybe. We can see that with Cat's Eye, they're all very similar height, and same with Prelude/Seitzatine, they're all very similar heights. And as you can see, Marquis is that much taller than the rest of the girls that I really do think it would have had an impact on her chances of making it into this group. While I think she does fit the girly vibe very well, being like 3-4 inches taller than the next girl is not gonna work. So Marquis is eliminated. I then looked at the role, but I think each girl could play within the group. Obviously, you've got Samara and Nayoung would be vocal roles, and Emily would be a dance role, and then I think that Lexie and Azrella definitely fit an all-rounder role. I think that Sophia obviously also is a vocal role, but I think she has a very similar vocal tone and quality to Samara and Nayoung, so for that reason, I've eliminated her. While Megan is currently an all-rounder, in this group she definitely could have worked as a dancer, she's a good enough dancer. So then I decided to go back to vibes and style and compare Megan and Daniela. I think that Megan has a much more grungy urban street feel, whereas Daniela, at this time at least, felt much more pink and bubbly and girly. I also then looked at them in terms of a global group because obviously that is the goal, but the other members have already covered a wide range of continents and they're both from America, so that didn't really factor in much. So for that reason, I've decided to add Daniela as a final member of this group. She's also just that little bit shorter than Megan, so I think she would fit in better. So this would be our final lineup and their roles. I decided to make Azrella the leader. She's that much older than the other girls, and I think that she gets on well with them. She also does speak a bit of Korean, so she'd be able to communicate with Nayoung and staff members as well as all the other members. I think that they work really well together as a six. They all have that same like cutesy vibe. So for that reason, I think that their debut era would have been very much the same. I think that this works well with this group. It just would have looked more like this. The difference, I think, would have come in the next era, Beautiful Chaos. Because I don't know about you, but I just cannot see this. Like, these girls are not releasing gnarly. This, however, I buy a bit more, and it's clear that Gabriella was kind of Daniela's song. So I think that Gabriella could have been the first big single of their second era. So obviously Gabriella has moved up, so Gabriella has got to be replaced. So I think it would have been replaced with a song that kind of fit with the vibe of Touch, but felt a bit more mature. And I think that We Ride kind of matches that vibe. Obviously, I doubt it would have been that exact song, but given the current members of Saint Satine and the pretend members of Cat's Eye, I think that this is a sensible choice. I think that Game Boy still would have been one of their songs because this definitely matches their vibe. I think maybe both Gabriella and Game Boy just would have had maybe differing costumes or choreography slightly more to fit this group, but I still think the songs work with them. So Gnarly is replaced with Gabriella. Gabriella is replaced with We Ride. Game Boy stays. I think Mean Girls stay. I think that that is very important to them, their origin story as a group, and still fits their vibe. I don't think that they would have had MIA. I don't really think that matches their vibe very well, so that would be replaced with something else. What? I don't know. So the next question is this group. Because Girl Group 2 was a waste of plan, and they're not going to spend all this time and money training all of these talented girls just to have one girl group, because that is a bad business plan. Could it have looked like this? I'm just kidding. So I went back to our original 20. Obviously, I eliminated all of the girls who made it into Cat's Eye because they're no longer eligible. I also think that they knew the lineup for this group of November, the year after they debuted, because this is when the reunion was, and obviously we saw Lexie, Emily, and Samara in that video kind of hinting that they already knew the lineup. So for that reason, anyone who had made solo work before then or debuted in some way or another, I made ineligible. I knew that Carly and Marquis have also done solo stuff, but that was after this date. I think that Cat's Eye in this scenario would have fulfilled the soft girly vibes, so I think they would have gone straight into wanting a more mature feel that we come to expect from Cat's Eye nowadays. And so for the same reason Lara was the first one I got rid of, for the last group, she's going to be the first one I add to this group because she definitely matches their vibe. I'm then going to eliminate these three because I feel like they're that much younger and they definitely have more of a cutesy vibe. I also feel like Yunsei definitely would have debuted in some other K-pop group by this time. The next member I'm going to add is Marquis. Well, in Dream Academy we kind of saw her as a softer character. I think since that ended we definitely saw her come into her element and have that more mature feel, and I think she really balances out Lara very well. I then eliminated Carly and Celeste. Neither of them made it to the final in either scenario, so I feel like it's unlikely they would have been asked back to the group, and neither of them were overly popular to warrant them making that effort. I'm also going to eliminate Manon. I think we saw that this wasn't necessarily what she had planned with her life before this program started, so I think she probably would have started a career in modeling or acting and be very successful elsewhere. So again, that leaves me with Megan and Sophia. But like I said, I think Megan definitely fits that cool girl urban vibe more, and Sophia definitely feels more sophisticated and classy. And also I like to believe that Sophia is off living her Broadway dream. So for that reason, Megan is the final member of this lineup. So they still would have had to have some sort of survival show. I think maybe it probably would have looked a little different. There definitely would have been different contestants. I also think maybe it could have taken place more in Europe rather than in Japan, just looking at this current lineup that we've got. And I think they still would have had songs like Gnarly and Pinky Up, because obviously that fits this vibe. But who really knows? At the end of the day, I don't. You don't. It's just a bit of fun, and it's fun to think about in it. This is great fun.